National statistics are showing 152,820 teenage girls have so far have become pregnant this year.
Say just that number again.
152,820. All those just this year alone. Nairobi, Kakamega, Homa Bay are leading. Machakos is also doing badly. To address this issue, I've seen the governor of Machakos, Alfred Mutua, is calling on the president to basically form a task force and see how can we address this issue. But I think also the society needs to participate. We need to have a conversation. Whether it's formed by a task force or whatever.
Everything task force.
It will bring a conversation, CT. Because we must talk about it.
You know, Eric,
if we call it a public hearing, call it a commission of whatever. But as long as we bring in a conversation that is public, it's open. That's the same way BBI go around the counties, have public hearings,
public participation,
everything. But let's talk about this. The church is quiet, or is the church doing anything? I haven't heard. The community, the leadership of the community is quiet. What are we doing?
This is the thing, because the act itself is something that is often done in private that will actually lead you to pregnancy, right? But these things are coming into the public. And in order to get a solution, it has to be public. It has to be opened up. It has to be in the open. It has to be for people to discuss it. Otherwise, we're going to continue having issues like this. What happens when a young boy, for example, at the age of 10 or 11, shows some kind of interest in sex? He's beaten. Is that not the case?
Yep.
He's beaten or he's told, keep quiet. Don't even talk about such things. It's not of your age yet. Go away. What's going to happen? That young boy is never going to open his mouth again about this under the roof of his parents until he gets out somewhere on his own. What did Rebecca say a few minutes ago? I figured it out on my own. I never had a conversation with my parents about it. I figured it out on my own. So what happens when he gets into a situation or whereby he feels he must force his way through, or he feels because he doesn't know enough, peer pressure is going to lean so heavily on him that he's going to make a decision that he would not have ordinarily made if he was armed with information, as opposed to having to deal from a place of fear. He didn't want to have to deal with discipline from his parents. Shut up, we don't discuss such things. But then you get into trouble later. How are you going to figure it out? And that's why we have a lot of problems that we have here. The stigmatization, where did it come about? Where did it come from? You want to trace it back? Exactly.
It's from
trace
us.
it back. Even the mother imagine, this act was not committed to her. Her as a person, her as an individual. It happened to her children. But she doesn't even want to talk about it. Doesn't want to discuss it. Why? It has come from conditioning.
Go back to certain basics. Look at the way we even describe sex. Look at the attitude we have towards sex. Look at the absence of openness that we have when discussing matters of sex. I'm talking about adults, not children.
Adults.
Tabia mbaya is what people often refer to sex. And now, you start by informing your children that sex ni tabia mbaya.
How do we all get here, if you want to ask the question in the first place?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And why do you think that sex is always referred to as something that must be conducted in the dark? When that is the mindset that pervades literally the minds of any adult that you come across. So what do you think is going to happen? You think they're readily going to be discussing some of these problems that involve sex? Out of the question.
Of course not.
And it doesn't just stop at the individual. So you get to, and I'm just going to say here, I mean, for crying out loud, we have institutions in countries that are supposed to be dealing with these things. You have people who on a bright sunny day ordinarily would be confident about this, speak about the work that they're doing. But when it comes to something like this, nobody really wants to kind of discuss it. They ask the question,
broach that topic.
CT, in your department, what have you been doing? Send us a report and we'll look at these issues. Come on.
We've been having, we promised that we're going to have a conversation with the County Executive Committee member for Health in Machakos County, Dr. Ancent Nzioki. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Now, Daktari, we know that you're the Minister for Health in the county, and the issue of the teenage pregnancies is now the national conversation.
Yes.
We also know that your governor has reacted to what was presented initially as the numbers and also now the steps to be taken going forward. Can you just tell us, From let's not even start having a debate of whether the 8,000 or 4,000 was a true figure or not. The thing is, the county government of Machakos has accepted that yes, there are numbers of underage teenage pregnancies.
Yes.
What is the cause of this? From where you see it, what leads us to where we are?
Yeah, thanks a lot. But I think it's important to set first the record straight, because if we don't do that, then we'll be discussing the wrong statistics. So it's true, teenage pregnancy is a big issue, which we must have a conversation as a society, and I'm happy we are already having that. So first I want to correct that notion that about the 4,000 cases. Fact of the matter is, one, of course I want to correct two things, because the notion has been created out there that about the numbers, but even to me, more importantly, is not even about the numbers, but the association people are trying to create that these teenage pregnancies are related to COVID-19. One, we need to appreciate that even for mature pregnant women, we encourage them to visit antenatal clinics at least 4 times during the pregnancy. For the teenage pregnancies, we encourage them to visit even more frequently, if possible, even monthly. So those numbers which you are given, you cannot just pick January, February, March, April, May, and add them up to get 4,000. But you must appreciate that a number of those are actually repeat visits, because you encourage the teenage girls who are pregnant to visit even monthly, because there are so many issues we need to tackle with them. Then the other issue, we need to demystify, is trying to associate these the current numbers with the COVID-19. Obviously, and we know that all of us have women in our lives, whether mothers, sisters, aunts, and so on. Even for the mature women, when they are pregnant, they start visiting antenatal clinics from around the 4th month of pregnancy, 4th, 5th, 6th. So now trying to link these teenage pregnancies to COVID-19 and the fact that children are at home is not true, because schools were closed around mid-March. So any pregnancy which could have been contracted after schools closed is barely 2.5 months, which probably has not been manifested. So that's very clear. But now coming to the point, it's true, teenage pregnancies are there, they are common, and is a societal problem, which we must address. We can't continue burying our heads in the sand. And this is an issue we need to have a real conversation at different levels, different sectors, starting the youth themselves, the parents, guardians, teachers, religious leaders, and governments, because we need policies which will aid us prevent this. We appreciate that when a teenager gets pregnant, their life gets messed up in a big way. One, because that's the age when they are in school, either in high school, others in primary school, others in college. When they get pregnant, it means that their education is interfered with, and for some of them is interfered with forever. Again, we know that teenage pregnancy brings a lot of psychosocial problems. These teenagers get discriminated. Some parents even chase them away, they disown them. Their peers start looking down upon them, and that can have a long-lasting psychological impact. And then also we appreciate that, again, teenage pregnancies come with other health-related complications. A number try to procure and save abortions, leading to sometimes even to loss of life, or even their reproductive systems are getting messed up forever. Those who are bold enough and have been counseled enough will carry the pregnancy to term. And we know during the pregnancy of a teenager, there are so many complications which can arise, bleeding and so many other things. And even during delivery, there are also complications, including obstetric labor. So this is an issue which really has a big impact on society, and we must indulge in it to really ensure that, one, we prevent it. And the best way to prevent it is basically to look at the sexual and reproductive health rights of our teenagers. And that starts all the way from menstrual hygiene and including all that, because when that is not appreciated, when we make it like is a taboo, these girls grow up without really knowing what is supposed to happen, where to seek help, and many other things. Of course, as we tackle the issue of the girl child and the teenage pregnancies, it must be tackled together with the issues of the boy child, because these pregnancies don't just come. And for a fact, if there was a scenario where we could have our teenage girls somewhere where there are no men, then we will not be talking about teenage pregnancies. But unfortunately, there is no such life. Girls will be mixing with boys.
True.
And also grown men. And so we need to have an open discussion, progressive one, to ensure that we move forward as a country and tackle this issue.
How is this going to happen, Dr. Because I think even as we sit here and we try to figure out really what needs to go on, because starting off where you talked about, even if, and I said this yesterday, if we're talking about 4,000 being an erroneous number, even if we had 500 girls in one county who are going to the clinic 4 times over months, it's a problem, just as you've admitted to. And even if the number is 500, let's bring it down and cut it in half and divide it by 2. Mm-hmm. The number is, even if it's 500 in one area, it's a high number, Dr. That's one. Secondly,
that's very true.
Yeah. So secondly, if we're saying that it's not a COVID issue, that away, it's still a problem, because that means that this was existing even before COVID, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So it is a problem, latent or not, that we have right here in front of us. Now, with the things that you have said, absolutely true. But if we look at the practicality of it, Dr. How do we get some of these things to happen? What tangible things do we need to do, or do we need to happen? Because it could be that the spotlight is on Machakos, but as we said earlier, this is something that is reverberating through the entire nation at this time.
Yes.
What needs to be done?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And what needs to be done is first to state the facts, because the reason why I had to clarify that the current numbers are not related to COVID is because they are, sometimes the Kenyans, we just like looking for ready-made solutions. Mm-hmm. There are those who have been agitating and saying that these are because of COVID, so schools should be reopened. And you see, now if we have such a discussion, then we'll be losing it. Because fact of the matter is, teenage pregnancies have been with us. So let's not blame COVID-19 for the teenage pregnancies. Let's now have a real discussion. And that's the reason why to demystify that they are not COVID-19 related. The COVID-19 ones will come, unfortunately. Yeah. So what needs to be done is let's have an open society where we can discuss things openly. We know that, let's admit it, when we were in high school, a number of us had girlfriends. And a number of us had boyfriends. Those are facts. But when we become adults and become parents, we try to forget that and try to imagine that our girls, our boys don't have boyfriends when they're in high school, even when they're in college. We are lying to ourselves. And the reason for that is let's appreciate that these are the boy-girl relationships. They are physiological. They are hormonal. That's the reason why, at a certain age, boys start getting attracted to girls and girls to boys and so on. So let's appreciate that it is physiological, and there is nothing wrong with a high school girl having a boyfriend or a high school boy having a girlfriend, as long as those relationships are well guided and directed. So we need to have those discussions all the way from the home, where mothers, fathers, guardians, grandparents, aunties, and so on, and uncles really start discussing these issues with our boys, with our girls early enough. Then when we get to the school environment, again, let our teachers be also open and discussing some of these issues with our girls and boys, because sometimes we've seen in schools where a girl, when she has started experiencing a menstrual period, maybe she was not aware, and unfortunately maybe she soils her clothes. You see, instead of now the teachers taking responsibility and counseling her and telling her is normal, a number of teachers actually say very bad, nasty things to such a girl.
Yeah.
And you see now from that early age, then they start feeling is like being a girl or having menstrual periods is a crime, is demeaning. And then they start now withholding things inside themselves.
Even to
Then
the
it will
parents.
follow that.
I want to pause.
Yes.
I want to interrupt here and interject and ask you, Dr. From the statistics that you have, because now you have the statistics of the children who are the children who are coming to health facilities for antenatal care. Those statistics that you have, is there anywhere where there is a report of indicating whether it was consensual sex with their peers or whether it was abused by somebody else? Is there any corresponding kind of data, maybe coming also from the police department and the chiefs?
Well, some of them you can have, like data, like let's say if it was an issue of incest, which probably might have even gone all the way to court and so on. But generally, when people come to the natal clinics, there are questions which should not be appropriate to ask, because it will not be right for someone, even if it's an adult, who has come for an natal clinic, then you start asking them who impregnated you. Was it a boyfriend? Was it whatever? It will be an inappropriate question.
The doctor may not ask this, but the rest of the government system should be able to capture this information. That the fact that there's a girl who has gone to seek antenatal care in a certain health facility, and then now this is followed up, even if it's being worked on backwards. Because once you have this information and you're saying we have teenagers who are pregnant, as a government, this should be a point of concern. So what else do you do to find out how this girl ended up and how these many girls are ending up pregnant?
That is a very complicated issue, because in the process of trying to establish that, actually you can cause more harm to this girl. Imagine if this girl maybe was assaulted by maybe a relative, an uncle, a teacher. The legal process needs to be followed, but not in the documentation whereby we can have this data in the clinic or whatever. Again, it can cause a lot of psychosocial problems to the girl when you really try to dig deep. Maybe they already hurt. Then you are trying now to remind them how someone maybe raped them.
I think that is if you approach it in a silo, Dr. If you approach it in a silo, then it could be a problem. But if you know that in this government we have children officers, right? In this government, we have an entire ministry in charge of social services and the youth. In this government, we have all these others. So if one, like your department now, the health department, has this data of this number of children are pregnant in our county and they're seeking services, this information is information that can be shared with the other departments, and those other departments would be able, for example, a counselor would be able to sit down with this child and find out how the child is doing. And from there, you'd be able now to capture the other important information. Because yes, like you said, what if this was as a result of abuse? Do you imagine that just by keeping quiet, by not asking the questions, you're helping the girl?
No. We don't keep quiet. That's what I've said. For in cases of, let's say, the incest, rape, and so on, all those cases are there and they are recorded, and the appropriate government departments actually take charge. I'm sure you've seen every year the Teacher Service Commission gives a list of teachers who have been either dismissed or taken to court because of canon knowledge with students.
Yes.
That data is there.
Yes.
But the thing is now trying to bring it now that this girl was employed by this teacher and making public data, that would be wrong. Because as you said, teenage pregnancy is a societal problem. It is not really a government problem. Societal problem, all the way from parenting, how we interact, how we've been socialized. And that data is there, but in different places. And sometimes there's a good reason why it is kept silent. Because at the end of the day, these are minors who we need to protect them, even from, and we've seen how our society is. We've seen a lot of cyberbullying. So some of these things, the data is there, but needs to be handled in a very, very delicate way, because we've even seen, of course, and even myself, I've gone to court to where maybe a girl has been assaulted by maybe a teacher, sexually assaulted, I mean, a teacher, a relative, an elderly person. And those cases, they go to court. But it will not be appropriate now to start saying this girl X was impregnated by man X.
Dr.
Not be right, but the data is there, yes.
Dr. Given the severity and the clear increase of such cases, does a health system such as the one that you oversee have social workers and counselors?
Yes, we do. We do, in fact, if I may mention, Machakos County, and I believe also many other counties, we have youth-friendly health services, where apart from because the teenage pregnancy is an outcome. But we have youth-friendly services where our youth can seek counseling services. Those who wish can get contraception. Those who get pregnant get now the counseling, the proper natal care away from the other mature women, because we appreciate these are young girls, and you cannot just put them in the same process when they are pregnant like mature women. These ones require some delicate attention, which they are taken through. So those services are there. We have and of course there are different departments, as you are aware. We have the Department of Children Services, which is under the national government. And all those things are there, and they are active. Yes.
If indeed you do have these services, aren't these the sort of people who would be trained to handle the sensitive matters that you said one cannot easily discuss with the youth who come to you?
Yes, and those issues are untold. But what I was saying is, you are trying to make it a bit too simplistic, that we just need to have that data. Say this girl was impaired by this one by this. The data is there. Again, there's the issue of the confidentiality of these minors. But that work is ongoing. And that's why I started by demystifying that if we don't get the correct statistics, we'll be fighting the wrong war.
But so let's come back to that, because I think you got the question wrong, Dr. The question is not asking whether girl X was impregnated by man Y or boy X. The question is clear. Do you have correlating or corresponding data? If you know that you have 20 girls who are pregnant in Machakos County this month, and they've gone to health facilities for the first time this month, do you have any other corresponding data from other government departments that shows you we have then 10 cases that have been reported as defilement? We have five disputes that have been reported with the chiefs as, parents going to say, your son impregnated our girl. Do you have that corresponding data?
That data is there in the children's department. It is there.
All right. So from the data that you have and the data that now we have about teenage pregnancies in Machakos County, how many cases do you have, ongoing cases of disputes that have been lodged in other systems of government that indicate abuse?
I may not be able to give you that data now because, government, different arms work together, and each does whatever is supposed to be done. Because that now is not data for the Department of Health to consume. That is for the legal department and the relevant, basically the administration to take care of. But I can get you that data.
So if we're saying that, Terry, if we're looking at these teenage pregnancies right now, and we know that it is something that must be dealt with as an issue,
yes.
By the time we start looking at dealing with it as an issue, you must look at the underlying reasons. Now, are we looking at teenage pregnancy across the country, or even if just one county, for example, is coming about as a result of abuse? Is it coming about as a result of, sex being had without the right information? What is the issue? Because then that would help in solving the problem.
That's a very good question. And the answer to that is it is a number of issues. Okay? Let's appreciate one. A number of these teenage pregnancies are actually from peers. Boy child, girl child, the same age.
How many? What percentage?
as I've told you, I'll not be able to give you that because that information is another department. But what I'm saying is I'll not be able to give you the percentages, but they are there and we know them. Whereby it's consensual sex between age mates. There's also the issue of teachers. As I've said, some teachers who have canon knowledge with their students. There's the issue of even incest. And we have a number of cases ongoing, even from my village, where chiefs have actually arrested a father for impregnating a daughter, something like that, a teacher doing X, Y, Z. All that is there. And then, when this teenage period, it goes all the way to 19 years. Some of these students, teenagers, actually in college. There's also the issue of sugar daddies, which we must address. Because there's a financial poverty issue, which is also fueling some of these teenage pregnancies. We've had from some universities, there's the issue of sex for marks or sex for grades. So all those issues, we need to look at them across the board. And that's why I mentioned that teenage pregnancies are a societal problem. It's not a government problem. It's not just a health problem. It's not a school problem. It is across the board, and we need to start all the way from the home, the parenting, the religion, where this how we socialize our girls and boys as we go to churches or mosques, in school, in high schools, in colleges, in all that. Across the board, because we sometimes, as parents, especially middle-class parents, sometimes we fail. We find that someone has decided to take a 10-year-old to a boarding school.
Yep.
And when you lose that child I'm talking about now the parenting aspect, from 10 years, you'll never recover it. So they learn things from their peers, from the society, and they may learn the wrong thing. So it's a societal problem. We need to address all those issues. It's not there's no one single answer or one single solution. We need to walk all through and see how these things are happening.
We see the governor of Machakos, Dr. Alfred Mutua, released a statement yesterday where he was calling on the president to establish a task force so that this can be a national conversation.
Yes.
And I just want to take us back to that point where you started by saying this is a societal problem, and this is actually what I completely agree with you. It's a conversation that needs to happen within the society. But I also, I also feel that we need to get to a point where we're coming from a point of information. There are all these many possibilities that lead to pregnancy of teenagers.
Yes.
And just like even your governor was saying, the ones who are pregnant may just be a smaller percentage of others who have not become pregnant, but they are engaged in sex.
Yeah, and also, if you allow me, remember the data we have is only for the ones who have come to seek medical support.
Yes.
There's a certain percentage which does not even go to hospital.
Indeed.
It has not been captured.
Indeed.
Yes. So it is a real issue, which I'm happy we are discussing.
What I wanted to ask is, I'm going back to the question I'd asked earlier regarding counselors and social workers.
Yes.
If we know that this is a problem, what preventative measures has the county taken?
That's a very good question. So as the county government of Machakos, we've taken a number of measures. One is we have school programs, which school health programs, where our teams actually go to schools and educate these girls on the whole health issue, including menstrual health, the issue of sexual rights, the issue of basically the girls and the boys to understand their physiology. Why is this change coming? Also telling them that feeling attracted to a boy or to a girl is not criminal. It's part of your body physiology. We have those ongoing. As I mentioned, we have the youth-friendly health services, again, spread across the county, whereby our youth can be, yes.
What is that? What's a youth-friendly health facility?
Friendly clinics is basically a clinic where is only the youth who go to it, because they realize that when youth go to the normal clinics where they are adults, they might be looked down upon, but we have now these friendly clinics whereby a boy or a girl can walk in and say, I need to be given contraception. And they advise on the best one for them. Unlike if they walk to a general family planning clinic, they may be looked down upon, maybe by the elderly women.
Okay.
So that's one. Again, where they can access even post-exposure prophylaxis for in case they have had unprotected sex. They also go there for counseling. They get sexual education. They get counseling on how to approach life. And MACU, we give both the natural methods of contraception and also the artificial ones. And they also, in case of now the ones who maybe get pregnant, they get counseling. The advice why is not they should not do abortion, and they are taken through the whole pregnancy process and natal clinic in a tailor-made way for teenagers. And all the way, then of course we have the youth, the teenagers who actually have disease like HIV. Again, they are counseled to know how they need to continue with their drugs and live a normal life. Then as a county government, we've also actively engaged youth groups, including there's a youth group called Machakos Youth Assembly, and the other partners who we continuously engage them. We also actively engage university students, and these are a unique one, but a very good one. We engage university students from Machakos County, and we support them to go back to to high schools and talk to the teenagers there, because they are almost a similar age. The teenagers in high schools listen better to them.
Yeah.
They explain to them how they to approach life, the sexual aspects and all that, so that they can really relate. Because sometimes when you are an older person trying to tell some of these things to the youth, they just ignore you, because the teenage life which is there currently is different from the teenage life we lived. And we have that. Again, as I've said, we have other programs. We have our counselors, our psychologists who again engage these youth at different levels. We are also actively engaging religious leaders, because again, sometimes some of these problems come about because of some religious basically teachings which make some things taboo to be discussed, which should not be the case. And we are seeing change, because all of us need to be involved. Again, obviously, the Ministry of Interior, the chiefs, sub-chiefs, government administrators are also actively engaged, so that we also talk to these our youth and also the parents. So all these support groups are there, and the county government continues to support all those different initiatives.
How about safe houses, halfway houses for children who feel that they've been abused, or not feel, children who have been abused, and they are seeking justice and they want to get away from that environment where they have facing the abuser? Do you have any plan to set up such houses, such facilities for them?
Yes, that discussion is ongoing. In fact, the First Lady of Machakos is in the forefront of championing for that, because as you said, it's true, we really need to have safe houses where teenagers and also even elderly women who have been abused, either sexually or otherwise, are attended to. And at Machakos Level 5 Hospital, we have a gender-based violence center, whereby we attend to all these issues, and these girls and women get support, both financial, psychological, and so on, because after the abuse, after the recovery, there is a life after, and that needs also support. So those are ongoing discussions, interventions, which are there, but still need to be strengthened.
For sure, it needs to be strengthened. And unfortunately, I think we're dealing with an issue that right now there's a lot of noise about it, Dr. And as is the normal trajectory that things will take, in a couple of weeks, the noise is going to die down. And it is the hope.
It is very unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. It is the hope that the action will actually increase, even if the noise dies down. But as we have seen historically, unfortunately, the action dies down with the noise. What assurances or what confidence, let's not even talk about the general public, those who are, which could be anybody, who are at risk of entering in and being just another statistic, what confidence or hope do they have that something is going to be done? We've talked about a welfare system. We've talked about a safe house system. We've talked about so many things now. We've talked about everybody getting involved, the conversation going. How do we say that this will be spurred on and continue even after the noise dies down? And I can assure you in other quarters, in a couple of weeks, the noise will not be as loud.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it's a very unfortunate situation because Kenyans, we have a very funny way of living, whereby basically everything comes, we discuss, we hype it, and then something else comes, we jump, we go to the other thing, and we keep on moving. And that's why we needed one. I know people might think I'm trying to defend, but that's what I was saying. One, I went back and actually compared the teenage pregnancies from January to May 2019 and January to May 2020. And for a fact, at least for Machakos County, there were more in 2019 than they are now in the same time frame. But that notwithstanding, this is a discussion which we must perpetrate all through. Of course, we know the influencers who move from one thing to the next. But for those of us who mean well for our society and those who are concerned about this issue of teenage pregnancies, are basically the sexual and reproductive health rights of our young girls and women, we must continue in these conversations. We know the churches, the mosques, and the other religious bodies are also now actually alive to this. These are discussions which are ongoing, and we must continue with them. And we should take refuge in the fact that even our constitution actually protects sexual and reproductive health. And so with the backing of the law, we should be able to do the right thing. And obviously, the problem is that sometimes the systems might seem not to work, because a number of times you hear teachers being dismissed because of having canon knowledge with our students. But should it just end there by being sacked? Shouldn't there be some tougher action taken so that just because they're losing the job, it only affects you? Why can't there be a better deterrent? The same measures. Way when punitive measures, exactly. The same way if a certain mature person maybe takes advantage of a young girl, and we've seen it sometimes happen. Poor girls being lured by someone who promised to pay fees for them, and they start paying, but in the process they just take advantage. We need to have punitive actions be taken so that these sex predators are really taken good care of, and in terms of being put where they belong, to ensure that other people don't copy the same.
Those are very good points, and they're actually true. My challenge to the government of Machakos and other county governments, even before we go to the national government, is when you're sitting at your cabinet meetings, because Dr. Nzioki, you are in the cabinet, you're at the highest level of the executive of Machakos County. The conversation should not be looked at from, my department deals with those that come to the hospital, and then the other department looks at what other data they have. You should be able to compare this information so you can basically sit and have the overall view, knowing in Machakos County, this is the bigger cause of pregnancy among our teenagers. Is it abuse? Is it children having sex with their fellow teenagers? Is it teachers? What is the bigger cause? So that can help you direct a conversation and know this is where we need to give our focus.
That's a very good comment. But if you see that you followed my governor's comment yesterday, the thing is that the issue is bigger than just a county. And that's why Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua talked about a national conversation, because you find that the issues of children's rights and all that, they're under the department of the Children's Department, which is actually under the national government.
Yep.
There are issues which are the county. And at the county level, of course, we also have our departments dealing with us, with such. But as I've said, this is a societal issue. if it's a, let's say if it's a teacher who has had a kind of knowledge with a student or a teenager, education is not devolved. If it's a chief who has taken advantage, that again is at the national level. So that's why my governor called for a national discourse, whereby we can be able to link all these issues and be able to address them regardless of whether this needs to be tackled by the judiciary, by the legislature at the national level, by the Ministry of Interior, by the Department of Health. We need to have that conversation so that this issue almost to have something like a one-stop shop, whereby we can be able to handle this issue of teenage health and teenage pregnancies once and for all, and in a very easy way. Because currently the way the system is, there are many red steps which you have to go through before you achieve some things. And that's why the governor, Dr. Alfred Mutua, called on the president to form, whether it's a task force or whatever it will be, so that we can have a genuine discussion on how to tackle this issue. Yes.
Dr. do I understand you to be saying that in the absence of a national discussion on this issue, the county government of Machakos is not able to tackle the problems that Machakos County has?
No, that's not what I've said. But what you need to appreciate is, fact of the matter is within the county government, within the county of Machakos, we have things which need to be done from the national government level to ensure to prevent teenage pregnancies. Okay, and that's why now we've talked about the issue of, for example, some teachers. There's the issue of some religious leaders. There's the issue of some administrators to be able to tackle. And that's why I'm talking about the whole holistic issue. And I've highlighted the issues that the county government of Machakos is undertaking to prevent these teenage pregnancies menace. And there are quite a number. I don't know whether I need to repeat them. There are quite a number. Yeah. But still, we need that proper link to be able to really address this issue in a very proper, sober way. Because I had said, and I repeat again, the problem of teenage pregnancies is a societal problem. It's not an issue to say that's for the county government, that's for the national government, that's for the religious leaders, that's for the schools. It is all of us, the whole society.
True.
Yes. And mark you, some of the issues which are leading to these teenage pregnancies are even beyond the government of Kenya. Because we know that our teenagers now with internet and everything, they can be able to access content from even other countries, from other places. Again, we know that there are influences from outside the country for some uncouth behaviors, which gets all the way to our youth. There are some kind of music which are produced not even within the country, but our teenagers have access to them. So it's not just an issue of say, can the county government, why has the county government capped this? Why has the national government capped? It's the whole society, bigger than even the country, yes.
Dr. Ancent Nzioki, thank you very much for speaking to us. Dr. Nzioki is the county executive committee member for health in Machakos County. Asante sana daktari for speaking to us. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you very much, Daktari.